In the summer of 327 BCE, while Alexander was busy with his campaigns in Sogdia, a serious situation popped up, a plot to assassinate him. Supposedly planned by some of his own royal pages. The discovery of this conspiracy, and the subsequent brutal investigation that implicated the historian Callisthenes, revealed a growing climate of fear and paranoia around the king, and the lethal consequences of incurring his displeasure. The attempt to introduce proskynesis had left a residue of bitterness and distrust in Alexander's camp, particularly between the king and those Macedonians and Greeks who valued their traditional freedoms. It was against this backdrop of heightened tension that the pages conspiracy unfolded in the summer of 327 BCE. Further darkening the atmosphere around Alexander and leading to tragic consequences for several individuals. Most notably Callisthenes of Olynthus. The royal pages Basilikoi Paides were a unique Macedonian institution. They were young sons of Macedonian nobles, typically teenagers, who attended the king, served him personally at court, and on campaign, acting as squires, cupbearers, and attendants, and received education and military training under his direct supervision. It was a prestigious position, effectively an apprenticeship for future leadership roles in the army and administration. It also served as a way for the king to ensure the loyalty of powerful noble families by holding their sons in his retinue. The conspiracy reportedly originated with one of these pages, a youth named Hermolaus. According to ancient sources, Hermolaus harbored a personal grievance against Alexander. During a royal boar hunt, Hermolaus had preempted the king by spearing the boar first, a breach of etiquette that denied Alexander the honor of the kill. Alexander, angered by this youthful impetuosity and perhaps seeing it as a sign of disrespect, had Hermolaus flogged in front of the other pages and deprived him of his horse. This public humiliation deeply embittered Hermolaus. Seeking revenge, Hermolaus allegedly began to plot Alexander's assassination. He managed to recruit several other pages into his conspiracy, including Sostratus, son of a Their plan was to murder Alexander in his sleep on a night when Hermolaus's group was scheduled to be on guard duty outside the king's tent or bedchamber. The plot was discovered, according to most accounts, just hours before it was due to be executed. One of the conspirators, or someone who had learned of it, revealed the plan to Alexander, or to one of his trusted officers like Ptolemy or Hephaestus. The named pages were immediately arrested and interrogated. Under torture, a standard procedure in Macedonian treason trials, Hermolaus and his fellow conspirators confessed to their plot. They also, crucially, implicated Callisthenes, the court historian and philosopher, who had been Hermolaus's tutor and mentor. The pages claimed that Callisthenes had encouraged their discontent, had spoken disparagingly of Alexander, and had, perhaps, even instigated their plot, or at least approved of it. Hermolaus, in particular, is said to have claimed that Callisthenes had told him that the only way to become a famous man was to kill a famous man. Callisthenes was immediately arrested. His position was already precarious. His outspoken opposition to Alexander during the Proskynesis Controversy had earned him the king's deep displeasure. He was seen as a figure of intellectual arrogance, a purveyor of traditional Greek republican ideals, and a critic of Alexander's increasingly autocratic and orientalizing style of rule. Many of Alexander's closest companions, like Hephaestus, reportedly disliked Callisthenes intensely and may have been eager to see him brought down. The trial of the pages was conducted before the Macedonian army assembly. Hermolaus, still defiant, reportedly delivered a speech denouncing Alexander's tyranny, his adoption of Persian customs, the murder of Cletus, and the attempt to enforce proskynesis, portraying their plot as an act of liberation. The army, however, already incensed by the attempt on their king's life, found the pages guilty. Hermolaus and his accomplices were executed, likely by stoning, the traditional Macedonian punishment for treason. Callisthenes' fate was more controversial and is reported differently by various ancient sources. According to Arrian, who drew on Ptolemy and Aristobulus, Alexander believed Callisthenes was guilty of inciting the pages, even if he was not directly involved in the assassination plot itself. Arrian states that Callisthenes was imprisoned and died sometime later, either from disease, perhaps exacerbated by harsh conditions and neglect, or from torture and ill-treatment in captivity. Plutarch offers a similar account, suggesting Callisthenes was kept in chains and died from sickness or was eaten by lice. Ptolemy, in his own lost history, as cited by Arrian, claimed that Callisthenes was tortured and then crucified or hanged, a more brutal end. Chares of Mytilene, another contemporary, said he was imprisoned for 7 months and then died of disease and obesity just as Alexander was about to depart for India. There was no formal trial for Callisthenes before the army assembly in the same way as for the pages, perhaps because he was a Greek civilian rather than a Macedonian soldier, or because Alexander simply decided his fate unilaterally. The involvement of Callisthenes in the pages conspiracy remains a deeply debated historical question. Many modern scholars are skeptical of his guilt, at least in terms of actively plotting assassination. It is more likely that his critical attitude, his influence over the young pages, some of whom may have genuinely admired his intellectual independence, and his previous clash with Alexander over Proskynesis made him a convenient target. His enemies at court may have used the pages' confessions, extracted under torture and therefore unreliable, to implicate him and remove a troublesome critic. The pages' conspiracy and the subsequent death of Callisthenes had a chilling effect on Alexander's court. It demonstrated that any opposition to the king, even intellectual or verbal dissent, could have lethal consequences. It further consolidated Alexander's autocratic power and likely silenced other potential critics. The climate of fear and suspicion, which had begun to gather after the Philotas affair and the murder of Cletus, intensified. Alexander, while still a brilliant and inspiring military leader, was becoming increasingly isolated from frank counsel, surrounded by men who were either genuine admirers, sycophants, or too afraid to speak their minds freely. This episode marked another step in his transformation from a Macedonian king among peers to a more solitary, Oriental-style absolute monarch, ruling over a vast and complex empire where the stakes for loyalty and dissent were terrifyingly high. I really hope you enjoyed the vlog. If you did, it would mean the world to us if you could share the video and hit that subscribe button for more awesome historical content. Thanks a ton.